There is this paradox when it comes to design in big companies between its function and creativity and strategy that appears to be growing more irreconcilable. Only a small number of companies have figured it out, with Apple being the most obvious, but also a few other hallmark brands that become clear when you think about them. From technology to hospitality, these companies understand design as essential to their success. So, where is everyone else? Why is design struggling to remain significant in an increasingly technology-oriented world? Let's first understand 5 drivers that got us here. First, market demand for 2 decades has led to over-specialization in UX and UI design. Designers, and consequently the expectation for design by companies, became almost entirely trained and focused on usability and interaction, instead of first principles, which are about bringing form to purpose. This broader basis requires designers to understand complex systems, innovation, communication, and long-term foresight, all of which fundamentally impact strategy. Instead, these are more often now articulated by engineering, product management, and sometimes marketing, while design has been dismissed as a service provider to them rather than a strategic partner at the decision-making level. This second driver has trapped design in execution. Third, execution is often incremental because of how products compete on a feature level with purely data-driven approaches that are heavily advocated, such as product-led growth, instead of applying multi-vector telemetry. Products then get stuck in small optimizations and A/B testing loops instead of creating category-defining innovations. This is because short-term metrics have replaced big-picture creativity as the fourth driver, particularly where there's greater aversion to risk. And data's very convincing at this. It can tell you a lot about what's happening now, help you color inside the boxes, and is much easier to articulate than speculative ideas about future shifts. But data without abductive reasoning, the cognitive ability to infer from incomplete or distant observation that's a hallmark of creative intuition, confines companies to thinking within a very limited range of possibilities. Finally, the rise of design systems and standardized UI components, patterns, and automation has operationalized and commoditized design production, but has marginalized investment into systemic design competency and led to homogeneous products that lack meaningful differentiation. What baffles organizations as a consequence is their struggle to make market-leading breakthroughs and overcome lagging innovation. Despite pouring time, money, and effort into product analytics, they keep falling behind with me-too products and features because they fail to respect the essential connection between design and business. Here are a few famous examples. IBM shifts towards an engineering-driven approach, sidelining design, causing loss of differentiation and a spiraling struggle to maintain market leadership. Microsoft's fragmented design approach and lack of cohesion fails to unify their product experiences, impacting customer retention. Yahoo's lack of design vision and poor integration with business strategy stagnated their brand and innovation until they were no longer relevant. GE struggled to shift to a more design-led approach in the digital age, missing opportunities in IoT and digital transformation, where they could have dominated. Tesla's focus on engineering over usability and user experience meant poor user interface, operational inefficiencies, and consequently concerns about driver safety, leading to customer alienation. In contrast, we recognize how those companies that embrace design strategically have stood out with category-defining innovations. They continue to refine their existing products, and that's still important. But design is deeply embedded in decision-making, where it bridges creativity, data, and strategy. So they're always constantly pursuing visionary leaps, usually in a future-oriented direction. Because of this, they differentiate faster and better and adapt more effectively with or without first-mover advantage, as they already see far ahead beyond the present data. And that's how they build long-term value. Of course, we need to understand that design faces its current paradox for a reason, and it's that technology marches the world relentlessly forward. Design evolved from pen and paper to digital tools, and now we have vast amounts of data and powerful AI and analytics to make sense of it. Iterate fast and frequently has also become the template for any existing product, and operationalizing repeatable production is necessary for any sort of scale. This side of product development is commercialization, but the other side of the equation is invention, which is a distinctly human inclination to create new ideas for new problems. What most organizations misunderstand is perceiving these as a tension between two competing forces, instead of dimensions that are essential to each other, which can be conceived from three principles. How can we think big and think small? This means envisioning transformative ideas at the systemic level while obsessing over the tiny details that bring it to life with clarity, craft, and care. How can we be groundbreakingly inventive in the right place at the right time? Design must balance visionary creativity with measurable business impact using telemetry from present needs to future signals. How can we move fast and move slow? Organizations that accelerate time to value while executing with discipline gain an exceptional competitive advantage. The shift is about more than just improving design. It's about rethinking its structure, operational approach, culture, and mindset. It starts with utilizing design teams beyond their typical role as a production service. As I mentioned, the fundamental superpower designers wield is bringing form to purpose. That means making abductive leaps, articulating the abstract, and identifying patterns from distant connections. Understanding how a design team consists of 6 temperaments that align to these 3 market horizons allows an organization to effectively activate appropriate design thinking and outcomes, whether it's painstakingly crafting the details of an interface, boldly prototyping a product or feature innovation, or interpreting the signals of a speculative future, in the different spaces derived by a polyrhythmic product lifecycle, as well as augmenting most effectively with the right use of AI. Along this polyrhythmic lifecycle, as products emerge, evolve, mature, and inevitably decline, the effort required to achieve incremental advancement increases, slowing down perceived time to value. In the early stages, design focuses on defining the product and its market fit, and can be very nimble with relatively few resources in the absence of established rules. In the growth stage, it scales and refines, implementing systems of checks and balances necessary for more complicated operation. In maturity, it maintains consistency and optimizes existing features through strict governance and go-to-market processes that ensure things don't break for existing customers. And as it reaches end of life, design has mostly been automated. The role and productivity of designers also differs at these stages, from product, experience, and visual design in the early stage to system and solution design as the product scales, to brand, strategic, and operational design when it matures. A design organization can be optimized with the product lifecycle so companies can measure investment, impact, and outcome in context to each stage. Finally, design's function is threaded vertically through multiple levels within an organization. At the surface, it's executed operationally and broadly reflected in the beauty and integrity of what it produces. Further up, it shapes strategy and brand, demonstrated by strong product market fit, competitive differentiation, and long-term innovation. At the highest level, it influences policy, defining organizational values, meaning, culture, and vision. Design's alignment with other key functions at each level is a critical success factor and requires a commitment that integrates design as a fundamental decision-making stakeholder in exchange for its part in being responsible and accountable for an organization's business performance. Leadership alignment is essential, preferably at the C-suite with a chief design officer, but nominally at the senior executive level where it must influence policy, strategic priorities, product roadmaps, and investment with an equal amount of weight as product, engineering, and marketing. To be taken seriously as a business driver, design must be treated as an investment, not a cost, which means being accountable for short and long-term value in return. This return should be defined by measurable design-driven innovation supporting key business goals and competitive advancements in the market, so that design's value can be objectively proven instead of subjectively dismissed as a line item in operating costs. Here are some obvious and maybe not so obvious examples of how deeply integrated design has defined market leadership, from strong brand loyalty, industry-leading margins, and visionary human-centered innovation to sustainable materials and optimized supply chain. These companies advocate design as a mindset, involving curiosity, framing the right problems, empathy for users, and iterative problem solving. When shared across disciplines, it supercharges every part of the organization by converting friction and collaboration into a feature for critical thinking. It bridges the logic and values of each function with a common language for engaging complexity, navigating uncertainty, and articulating the human experience in every solution through tools like prototyping, storytelling, and visual systems thinking. Something Airbnb does incredibly well that has helped them scale quickly while still maintaining a strong product experience. Defending design's value as a strategic asset means it must continue to show credibility where it counts. And since what gets measured gets respected, design outcomes must be tied to real business impact, which are usually expressed as metrics like increased conversion, reduced support calls, faster time to value, or customer retention. Products can be instrumented to capture user behaviors and interaction patterns at the business level, product and experience level, brand perception level, and organizational level that reflect the outcomes of design-driven innovations. Combined with user research to progressively inform continuous improvements, and with predictive AI and foresight to provide telemetry for future leaps. Netflix, Spotify, Ubisoft, and Disney parks are just a few examples of companies where design has proven to be quantifiably crucial in driving and validating bold innovations. The blueprint for design is more than just about making things usable or beautiful. It's about making things possible. When positioned at the heart of business, design becomes a driver of innovation, differentiation, and resilience.